Welcome everyone to our still the early part of our fifth season of doing these webinars. This is our second of the year and the first one that we're doing at our new time here at um, 6 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be doing the second Tuesday. We're going to do in the evenings at this time, and we're going to continue with our midday times on the one at the end of the month. So keep that in mind. You'll continue to get emails and reminders of when they are. So I appreciate that, and we're going to try this. And the only downside is we don't get some of our European friends to join us, especially from AIM Italy, but we get a lot more folks to be able to join us and visit and see some of these live. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm honored to have our next guest with us. We've known each other for quite some time, and I've been thinking about asking him to come on here and join us, but he's such a busy guy, so I didn't really want to do too much of that. But John Doonan, who is the IMSA President, is joining us tonight. Welcome, John. I appreciate you joining us.
Roger, I can't tell you how grateful I am that you asked. Always make time for you, and saw some familiar names on there, but fond memories of when you and Ruth and Andrew came to MX5 Cup. Obviously coming out of Spec Miata after winning at Topeka, and we had just got the scholarship program going, and what a great opportunity that was. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight. Can't wait. Saw some familiar names on the participant list. So we're gonna have some fun tonight, and honored to be part of it.
Yeah, as are we. To be here with you. I don't talk a ton about. We talk about Andrew and some of his data and some of the stuff that we do, but it was an interesting time. 2007, he got selected by the folks at Mazda to come in and be a part of that driver development program, and he was the first one of the closed wheel or the production car side. And you had done a little bit on the open wheel side, but there was such a whole new part to the stuff that we were doing. I felt that it was a good time to learn together with you and all of the fine staff that were there working it. We were a little bit of guinea pigs, but we learned such a huge amount. And what the best part of it is, I get to watch here now, 15, 18 years later, something like that, the program is still going strong there, and stuff that you built and laid, and that we were a small part of, that they're still doing it. They've adjusted it and made it even better, and it's still a good fun to be part of. So,
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I saw Josh Smith on there. Josh,
yep.
of course, came right before I got an opportunity here at IMSA. But Mazda, as you know, from the get-go, has a business in grassroots racing. And despite my day job today, I am truly a grassroots racer at heart.
Always have been, and that's what's so fun about chatting with you and watching you as you go through in what's got to be the dream job now, right? As a racing fan and as somebody that grew up in the sport. Just a couple things that I thought we would start with before I take down the PowerPoint. I've got a couple of slides that I thought we would kind of start with, that so I don't have to jump back and forth, right? So one of the things that was kind of fun at this year's 24-hour is I always, and it's always a bit of a we chat with different folks, friends of mine, that do the kind of the same thing. I stay up a good chunk of the night, sometimes all night, as I know you do as well, and and watch the race either on live TV or on the online broadcast. And one of the things that I found this year, of course, live timing being just getting better and better. And I just took a quick screen capture of a spot during the race, and to kind of go into this a little bit. And it's fun and it's interesting, and it's just so good these days. We have it so good where we have the great commentators, and the all of the information's coming at us. You can watch virtually all of it, and of course the live timing. But there was one thing that I found late into the evening. In fact, I don't think I probably should have known that it was coming, but there was a live telemetry that was available to the public, that one of the announcers mentioned, and I thought, "Oh, that's interesting." So I went online and typed it in there, and I just did a quick couple of screen captures. And I just appreciate that that IMSA has taken the effort to make some of this public. This is a screen capture of it. Everybody can see that uh, the energy remaining on that part of the car, the speed, the gear, throttle, and brake was kind of interesting. This was right after a restart. The cars were pretty together, and you can kind of see where everybody was kind of laying, and and then the pit status as well, which I thought was very intriguing because of the way the charging was happening, and the regen, and the tire changes, and when they came onto pit lane and when they were not, were all little things down here that across the bottom that these logos would show up here on the right hand side. I appreciate that, and I just thought we'd chat about this for a second, and number one, thank you for doing that, and your team, but allowing the data to get out that way and be a little bit more public like that, it obviously is part of a plan.
It is, and we have a very sophisticated fan who is extremely loyal and a big enthusiast in our sport. And David McSpadden, who's our chief technology officer, came to us from the LPGA actually, and helped develop and wrote all the code for our membership services and licensing program that is IMSA. When you enter the member services portal. David's a very talented guy, and he worked with our partnership team and AWS to try to bring this to life and give the fans a deeper look into what was happening with GTP. And we've got so many sensors on the car, so much data streaming on a regular basis with all the logging devices for scrutineering and for our data collection on BOP. We thought it was a really unique opportunity now after we've had a year of GTP to show this to the audience in a deeper manner. And I was so pleased. I met with a group of young kids from Belmont Abbey. Sorry, I shouldn't call them kids, students from Belmont Abbey. And it was about midnight or so on Saturday night, Sunday morning. And almost all of them, there's probably about 12 students, they all had this on their phones live. And for me, that's another
Perfect.
statement about kind of our next generation. But this is a neat tool to further engage the audience. And ironically, during the early part of the race, my staff texted me and said, "Are you sure we're okay with showing the top speeds, going into turn one, coming off the tri-oval?" And
Yeah.
yeah, I said, "Yeah, why not? I mean, we are all about speed and pace and technology. So this is just another statement about where we are as a sport."
Funny you should say that, but this is me again. I was sitting there doing screen captures, trying to capture some high top speeds, and this was the best I got. I just wasn't quick enough with my fingers at that time in the morning, right? So I did get 189 out of it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think there were some north of 200 laps
I believe I saw
going
it.
into turn one. So
Of course there was. They're great drivers and great cars, right? I do see Steve Martin just mentioned in the chat that we were checking out the data site while on our down rotation from flagging at the chicane during the 24 hours. So you've got one of your great guys that put in a little extra effort here joining us today. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. The let's stop that share so we can chat a little bit and not have that totally blocking everything. The um, first thing I'd like to do is chat a little bit about your background and how you got started this. I know you've been around motorsports most of your life. I remember hearing you talk about that your grandfather raced and your dad raced midgets and sports cars. Give us a little bit of background of how you grew up around this game and this sport, and how that's kind of driven what you've done for your life's work.
yeah, it's absolutely baptism through my family. My grandfather first generation John Doonan, raced circle track midgets in kind of the late 40s, early 50s. Ironically, I just acquired his 1947 Curtis Craft midget, which has absolutely no data systems on it. I can promise you that. And I have that. It's an Offie powered midget, which it just blows my mind. You know, our racers today, obviously so focused on safety, and you know, at the time there wasn't a seatbelt in that car because if they tipped over, they wanted to get thrown out. You know, so it was an interesting time, but you know, Grandpa instilled that in my dad, and my dad was in the Navy, but when he came back into the States, he was in Long Beach, and his first driver school was in a Formula V at a place called Holtville, which was an old airport track in Southern California. And he was in a what's called a form car, Formula V, which is almost like putting wheels and an engine on your bathtub. It was this big, very, very brave. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But then he moved back to the Midwest and was you know, built a bunch of cars, a sports racer that was Volkswagen powered in the early 70s, and then a Volkswagen Beetle road racer. Both of those cars, his sports racer and his Beetle, are also in my shop. I was able to find those, and I'm going to restore those back for some vintage racing. And you know, all along I was a track rat. You know, I grew up at the racetrack, and I just wanted to be part of the sport. And I was a sponge. I was, you know, timing and scoring when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I was working grid at 11, 12, 13, and eventually old enough to work, you know, pit lane and things like that. And so it was really the business side of the sport that was most intriguing to me. You know, Dad raced, and I watched everybody race. And you know, eventually in the early 90s, I went through driver school and did some driving. But it was really the business side of the sport that was most appealing to me. And late 70s, Dad was racing in the Midwest, and a buddy of his was also racing in showroom stock of the day, which was really showroom stock,
Really?
bolt-in roll bars and things like that. And this gentleman owned a Volkswagen Mazda dealership in Racine, Wisconsin. And in the first round of RX-7s, the 1979 cars, they built a couple of showroom stock RX-7s, and I fell in love with the Mazda brand at that time, and kind of had a dream to work for Mazda, to go to Japan. And obviously Mazda went quite solidly into the IMSA category with the RX-7 and dominated GTU racing throughout the 80s with, I think, 7 GTU championships in a row as a manufacturer. So lo and behold, met the right people at the right time. Joined Mazda officially around 2000. Had a Formula Mazda team of my own, and then got the call from Robert Davis, who is now retired, but he was head of marketing and head of R&D. Asked me I had shared with him my dream of working at Mazda, asked me to come on board, and we really tried to take the program, which was really established in grassroots, thanks to folks like Damon Barnett and Steve Sanders, try to take it to the next level with MX5 Cup, with World Challenge at the time. And then, of course, try to get Mazda back in IMSA with the American Le Mans Series and Grand Am with that program. And through that, as a competitor, got to meet Mr. France, and you know, competed there for many years. And in 2019, Jim called and asked me about coming to IMSA. And you know, you rarely get to maybe live out one dream in life, and I've been able to live two, and I'm so blessed and grateful for that.
Perfect. Yeah, you've continued to move up, and I wonder sometimes the what is the favorite part of your current job? Is it at the racetrack? Is it the preparing? Is it setting the direction? What is the favorite part of this job for you?
Well, at the track is where I always was, and where I feel like is my happy place. And I when I joined IMSA, I said to Jim and Ed Bennett, hey, you know, when I get to the racetrack, I know there's an office trailer, but I'm not going to probably spend a lot of time in there, because I feel like I'd be shutting the door on all my colleagues and my friends and my family, racing family in the community. And so I try to be out and about in the paddock at all times in the garage area. And then, when it comes to the Rolex 24, I stay up all night. I spend a lot of time in pit lane engaging with the teams, trying to keep them pumped up. I go up to race control and spend time with my staff. But I'm a true racer, and probably the hardest thing to get used to is coming there and not having a dog in the fight. I all those years with Mazda, I cared a lot about who won. Now I don't care so much about who won, but I care about a good safe race, a great show, good balance of performance. Those are the things that I measure our success on now. And I think for the most part, we can always be better, but we've made some improvements, and hopefully everybody on tonight and those who have tuned into one of our races are pleased with their seeing, because we're trying real hard to entertain our fans and those in the sport.
Let's talk about one of those challenges that you ran into, right after you took the job. From what I understand, you right away, the pandemic hits. So you've got you come in to head this organization that is, putting on races and doing things, and you're ready to jump out there and go, right? And then boom, you're hit with that. Well, give us
Yeah.
some thoughts on how you handled that, and what were the struggles, obviously, but there had to be some benefits that came out of that, improvements that you were able to make, and things you've probably set into place because of that.
Well, like you, and congrats on 5 years of doing these seminars, because we had to get creative ourselves, of course, with things like iRacing and being able to entertain our fans and keep our drivers active and keep our partners active. But when that first happened, our biggest issue was 40% of our credential holders come from outside the US.
Yeah,
And
yikes.
so we immediately, and I had a meeting with Mr. France the very morning after that all came to be, and said we need some help from U.S. Customs and Homeland Security, because we're going to be in trouble to be able to get everybody back in. And we were fortunate to meet all the right people at the right time, and they had an athlete waiver, and so I had to collect data, and they said, if you're going to do this, one person from the organization can submit names. We can't be getting emails from all these people. Well, lo and behold, I was that person. And so for the entire span of the pandemic, I was the only person that could submit names. Now my staff collected all the information, but there were plenty of nights where, I got calls at 3 a.m. for people in Europe who were boarding planes trying to get approval from a customs officer or a gate agent to board a plane. So we tried to do all the right things. We're so fortunate all of our partners hung in there with us. We ran a full championship in every one of the years. We had to be creative like everybody else, but learned a lot about being more efficient, maybe less days on site for our teams, and trying to continue to grow the business in a very tumultuous time.
Oftentimes when you're in the trenches with somebody, all your partners and your racers, it makes you so much stronger, and the bond is even better, right? So
Yeah, that's right. And we brought the family together.
exactly. The other thing I'd like to chat about before we move on to some of the data side is the structure of IMSA. You've got your 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 WeatherTech Sports Car Championship side and the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and then you've got a whole lot of things that may be of strong interest to a lot of people here or will watch this. Is the single make series, and it's just interesting to see that the Ferrari Challenge and the Lamborghinis and the Mustang Challenge and the Mazda MX-5 Porsche Carrera Cup. They how do you use that? What is the purpose of that, or is there, or is they need a place to race, obviously, and is it kind of driven from the manufacturers? Is it driven from IMSA and the competitors?
Well, it's definitely a partnership, so it's driven from both sides. But I like to call those single makes the prized possession of the manufacturer. And Jim France has a very solid philosophy around those single makes, which I obviously always believed in when I was at Mazda with MX-5 Cup. But his philosophy is, these are almost a celebration of our partnership with them. They've given us, in the case of Mazda, the MX-5, the best-selling two-seat sports car in the history of the world. Porsche has given us the 911. Mustang now is giving us, or Ford is now giving us the Mustang. Lamborghini, their Super Trofeo. Ferrari, the 296. And for me, that's exactly why they exist, because of a deep partnership with their brand. Now, they're also tremendous training tools for the next generation of talent, both behind the wheel, behind the computer when it comes to an engineer, behind the wrench when it comes to a technician or a mechanic. So for me, and then ultimately a race team, you see some of these race teams that started out in MX-5 Cup that are now in Michelin Pilot, or teams that have been in Porsche North America's Carrera Cup, and they now are in WeatherTech or something like that. So I think it's a really awesome portfolio that we are so fortunate to have with all of those brands. And then I think it's playing multiple roles in our development of drivers, teams, and other personnel. So we obviously are adding Mustang this year to what is already a pretty full portfolio with Porsche, Lambo, Mazda, Ferrari Challenge, and now Mustang.
We spent a little time in the Mustang Challenge series ourselves, so I'm anxious to watch that as well. But the you've always when you were with Mazda, the driver ladder was something that you worked on very hard, and it's pretty exciting to see not only that piece, but then, as you just mentioned, the mechanics, the engineers, the teams in general, they need to grow and get better, and I think it's fantastic. So congratulations on that, and I think it's a wonderful way to structure the entire process. So
Thank you.
pretty cool. The let's transition into data, and which is what a large percentage of our group likes to chat about. Obviously, the you're using it for a lot of things, and we chatted a little bit about the live timing and some of those things, but you also use it for technical compliance.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about it earlier. Give us a little bit of a background on the philosophy of that. Let me just share my 30-second piece that that I work with some of the amateur road racing groups, and we talk a lot about it, that it's important to be able to get information about the car's performance while on track, not necessarily based on the hardware they've bolted onto the car, or what they've done, or chassis dynos, or whatever it happens to be, but real life data, and maybe not only at the beginning of the race, but at the end, when people maybe really are getting after it, even maybe a little bit harder. So what's your theory on technical device compliance devices on cars?
Yeah, so just real quick, back to those single makes, I think data has become such a critical tool in those particular platforms because of driver development, driver improvement, coaching. It's just such a tremendous tool. And I think back to when my dad was racing, our data consisted of a stopwatch mounted on a clipboard, and so that was it. There was no other.
After a while, you had two of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could make sure you didn't miss a lap. But when it comes to compliance, clearly, prototypes that were running in GTP, the GT3 platform cars in GTD Pro and GTD, the LMP2 cars, Pilot Challenge, both GS and TCR, every one of the single makes. These cars are logging so much data so rapidly. And for us, serves a lot of purposes. You saw the stuff we did with AWS. Obviously, that's a fan engagement tool, right? But on the compliance side, clearly the number of sensors that we're logging at such a rapid pace gives us a very clear picture of a car's true performance. And we went to torque sensors on the GTP cars last year. It's our plan to implement that in GT next year to maintain close competition and parity. And Mr. France often says we're still in the entertainment business. So when we take this data and our small engineering team spends so much time analyzing it, it's for that purpose. And so both from a performance standpoint and from a scrutineering standpoint, there's no chance we could do what we do today without it. And so it's come such a long way. And I remember the first AIM systems and having to understand how to use a laptop when you're running a race team, and that was just so far from what any of us maybe imagined as we got into the sport.
We were really big in Formula Mazda at the time frame that you were in there as well,
That's
obviously,
right.
with the
That's
old
right.
MXL, our very first automotive product that way.
Yeah.
The you talked about all the sensors in the cars, especially the GTP cars, but other cars as well. But are those data loggers that are those team installed, or are they IMSA provided units that are separate from what the team is getting data from the car?
Well, there's another a data company that begins with a
Yeah,
B.
not a problem to say whatever we
Big partner of ours, the folks at Bosch.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
those are purchased by the teams, but provided to IMSA for purchase.
Okay.
And they're the loggers that ride on board. Throughout.
Is that shared data with the teams, or is there some of it that is siloed out just for IMSA?
Yeah, so there's quite a bit that's shared with the teams, but there's also plenty of channels. One in particular that now is direct, that wasn't before, which we can talk about. But yeah, we've tried our hardest to, in the midst of trying to maintain parity and fair competition, to have the channels that truly matter come directly to us, to make sure that we're keeping an eye on all those items. Racers will be racers. We all know that. But in the end, we live by integrity and data and regulations for us is so critical.
And it goes both ways. Obviously, there's data and integrity and all of that from the competitor side. Yeah, that's kind of their job to push the limits, and it's absolutely the organization's job to keep them within the box. I remember, I think it was last year's 24-hour. There was the problem that I think you were just hinting at, with maybe some tire pressure things. I don't want to go into the details of it, but it shows the power of finding something that was out of compliance and making sure that it's a level playing field. So all of the folks that are part of the organization, or all the racers, all the groups that are spending a lot of time and effort and money to be there, know that
Yeah.
it's a level playing field. Give us a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think if this was a year ago, I'd have far bigger bags under my eyes than I do right
Right.
now, because I had a lot of sleepless nights. But you know, you and I talked before this. Nothing we shared tonight's a negative. I actually look back on that now as actually quite a positive, and here's why. I said again, racers will be racers, but we had a need to work with our tire partners at Michelin to prevent folks from messing with the precos. And we all know there's performance in tire pressure, right? Both at the highest levels of the sport and at the most grassroots level of the sport. But safety is also important, and we were trying to develop a way to make sure that we did the right thing in monitoring tire pressure. It was the only channel that wasn't direct to IMSA at the time. And with integrity, the folks at now HRC, David Salters and his folks found an issue. Had enough integrity to let us know that they saw an issue. And essentially, we found that there was some offsets that were programmed in, such that the data we were seeing looked pretty good and in compliance. But in the end, it was not, and we took action. So that's the part. But again, I think in the end, we learned a good lesson, a positive lesson for the good of the sport, that we can have that data direct to us now and not have anybody out of compliance. So worked real hard with Michelin, worked real hard with our partners on the data side and all of our manufacturers, so everybody understands the severity of it.
And improve your process to get that data in real time, so you can, and probably many other checks as part of that, understanding exactly what happened. So good for
That's
you.
exactly right.
Good for you. The fast forward to this year's 24, I don't understand all of it, but I was watching it live, and there was a black flag, or a couple of warnings, and then maybe a black flag, a pass through or something. where that torque sensor did see something. So obviously you're seeing that in real time. You've got staff sitting there reviewing as they go. And talk a little bit about maybe that sensor specifically, or that team that is doing that. I think a lot of us would find that interesting.
Yeah, so if anyone has come to an IMSA race, if you haven't, I hope you do. Be happy to show you around. Bosch has a technology trailer now that travels to all the races, specifically around the hybrid powertrain they've helped us develop, as well as the logging systems we talked about earlier. But right next to that trailer is the IMSA engineering trailer, and in there we've got a staff of both full-time and part-time folks that do exactly that, Roger. They watch real-time data, and the torque sensors have been a tremendous tool. They're not cheap, let's be honest, but when it comes to fair competition, it's a really, really nice tool. And in GTP, the manufacturers have that common system. The electric motor, the housing from X-Track, the batteries from WAE, and they've all chosen to utilize that integration in a different manner. It's there for them, and some of them may use more than others and try to press the envelope, as you would say, in conjunction with their ICE power and how they're utilizing the hybrid. And that's what happens sometimes, is you have spikes in power usage that are beyond the expectations, and the manufacturers have been in really positive unison about how we police that and how we regulate that. And so it's unfortunate when it happens. None of us at IMSA want to get involved in penalties, whether it's an on-track incident or compliance or real-time rules infractions. So in the end, we had to make a few drive-throughs, and the team works hard to try to get the right map in there. And there's other things that happen. When I was running the DPI program at Mazda, you sometimes get turbo boost spikes when you went over certain bumps at street circuits. The wheels spun, and that happened. So I think again, it's a really incredible moment for our sport right now, and the fact that the companies like AIM and others have given us the tools to monitor the way we do real time is just hard to get your arms around.
Yeah, and number one, my preparation was poor. I should have remembered that boost problem with the. I should have brought
Oh
that up,
no, that's okay.
but I do remember it now. But what is even cooler about it is groups like IMSA and Bosch and others need to pave that way to these very good sensors that are, as you mentioned, are very expensive. But with that time, technology, it starts to flow downhill, right? And companies like AIM and the amateur motorsports enthusiasts that want to do some of the same things, that just continues to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and more available. And so it's really a good process, and I find it to be a fantastic way that business is done in this world. So
Yeah.
the let's transition over a little bit to the balance of performance side. That is another one of those topics, just like compliance, that it can be there can be hard feelings in it, but it has to be done, right? Or else nothing works well at all. So let's talk a little bit about that. Is it the same data systems, and are you storing that data and then reviewing it later? Do you factor in finish positions and lap times? How does balance performance really be processed and worked at IMSA?
Well, I if you don't mind, I go back to when my dad was racing. Balance of performance was you worked all day at your day job. You came home, you prepared the car to the best of your ability, and then you went out and drove the pants off of it to the best of your ability. And I'm a big believer in that. And when we were on the Mazda side, whether it was the RX-8s and Grand Am, which we had some really good fun with, winning a bunch of races and championships, and then ultimately the prototypes in IMSA DPI. I had a philosophy that we were never going to sandbag. I felt like I went into the boardroom. I asked our motorsports governance and executive team for a budget to go exercise these programs. And, why would we ever go out and play games like that?
Yep.
And I think it's very unfortunate for those who do sandbag. It's our fans pay a good amount of money to see the race, whether they're there on site, they've traveled a long way. We need to put on our best performance. And so that's what we've tried to, or that's frankly what I've tried to instill in the manufacturers when I got to IMSA. And the very first meeting I had with them, I said, I can make you two promises. One, or there's two promises or commitments that should be made in this room. One, we're not going to embarrass you. Please don't embarrass us. And the other is give us your best performance and we'll give you our best performance. Because if you have garbage data, you're going to get a garbage result when it comes to BOP. And BOP's been, it's a necessary evil in our form of the sport. You got all these different platforms, front engine, rear engine, turbo, normally aspirated, different aero configurations of these cars. And so it's a necessary evil. But we've worked really hard with the manufacturers, and without jinxing it, and I'll knock on my table here, I think we're in probably an incredible turning point for BOP. With GTP, all the manufacturers were invested, and they still are. We had a common hybrid system. In the end, we've got these torque sensors. It's awful hard to hide performance now. You're being logged at all times and in all manners. And we transitioned that same thing to GT. And we started last August at Road America. We've had now 9 technical working groups with the manufacturers to really analyze a performance window and have collaborative conversations among the entire peer group about performance capabilities of their particular car. There's nobody who understands their cars better than them, the folks that designed and engineered it. And so in the end, it's incumbent on us as the sanctioning body to issue the final BOP, but we're collecting enough data. We're using Canopy as a research tool or a simulation tool to try to get us close. And then coming out of an event, we have all the log data, but we also have a tremendous partnership with HH Timing, and they help us relative to stint lengths and average pace over an entire stint, which we call the Wessel. So there's so many tools now, and I think just for the good of the sport, we need to continue to have good balance of performance for the show, but also to keep everybody's investment giving it the proper return. And I think in the end, everyone has their own definition of BOP is right. Usually that means they're on the podium or winning.
Exactly.
We have a philosophy of it being right when everybody's in a X% window, and it's produced tremendous competition.
What I'm excited about when it comes to what you're doing, and others obviously too, but that ends up in that simulation range, right? You're doing a lot of things that are to understand the performance, and in time that again will flow down, that knowledge, that understanding, where even the folks like myself that are more of a grassroots or an amateur racer, then we get information that we can judge our performance of our car, or us as drivers, us as against a teammate or a partner that we have, and that will just become knowledge that is shared and learned and being able to use all through motorsports. So it's a necessary evil, as you said, and maybe it's not perfect unless everybody's a little bit angry, but it is necessary, and especially in your world, the way that it's set up. Even in the GTP cars, my son Andrew and I were chatting a little bit ago about, I don't remember the car makes. He's much better at that than I am, but there was one set of cars that were really fast at night, and there was another ones that were faster in the when the track was hot, and you could see that adjustment happening, that speed differential happening with even inside of it being very, very tight window. So very, very interesting, the challenges that are put in front of you. So
Yeah, for sure. I read an article in Road and Track earlier this week about the GTP days of old, and it talked about the cars making lap time differently.
yeah,
Tremendous downforce on the Chevrolet Intrepid, and they were slowest in a straight line, but they still made the lap time because they were so good in the corners. So cars have roughly the same power in DP or GTP. They have the same fuel capacity roughly. They're roughly the same weights. They're in an aero box that we measured at wind shear. And in the end, you're right. There's cars that may go quicker in cooler temps. They're better on tires. That's the beauty of our sport. And then we throw in the strategy piece that sometimes
yeah,
makes it even more exciting.
the way that it should be, the way that it should be.
Yes,
The
sir.
the
Yes, sir.
one of the, maybe it's not the last topic, but the one that I really wanted to make sure that we got to was you talked about your time when you could vote or wish for a certain car to win, and I'd like to chat a little bit about the Garage 56 thing where you got to go back and
Yeah.
and yeah, we can chat about it from the race and that standpoint a little bit, but what I find interesting is they put you into the position of managing and helping put that together. I'm sure with a great team and lots of people, obviously, but
Yes, sir.
having the ability to do that and go and do what you did, that had to be just quite an experience. I'd love to just hear a little bit of an overview from you and what you learned and from that side of it.
Well, I appreciate it. You maybe break me here with emotion because Tim France came into my office and said, John, I told you we were doing this kind of skunk works project with Action Express, kind of looking at the capabilities of a next gen car, and we're gonna make that pitch to the ACO, and I'd like you to lead the project. And to have that gentleman come in your office, number one, number two, to try to understand what it meant to him to recreate what his dad did in 1976 by taking a NASCAR stock car back to Le Mans. Just the most incredible opportunity and experience. So I was amazingly honored, incredibly honored
I'll
to be
bet.
able to have the chance. After that, you're right. I felt like I was back in the game. And I had a program to root for. The cool part is we worked with the best team in
Oh,
NASCAR history,
oh boy.
Hendrick Motorsports, some very, very talented young men and women there. Goodyear, tremendous partner of NASCAR. I worked with them in Star Mazda days. I worked with them in the ALMS prototype days. And then, of course, Chevrolet, the winningest brand in NASCAR. So you really had the best of the best, and that was Jim's intention. And then, we were basically tasked with going to Le Mans and showing the world what NASCAR was all about. And we worked very closely with the ACO and the FIA regarding our pace, because I think initially they thought, this big monster is going to come over here, be a rocket ship in a straight line, and then be, the proverbial moving chicane. And we did a lot of work. We got weight out of the car. We obviously worked on aero with Eric Jacuzzi and Brandon Thomas, my buddies up at the NASCAR R&D Center, and they gave us a lap time of 3:54. We were 3:53.7 on the first test day weekend,
Look at
and
that.
then we were about, I don't know, second and a half, 2 second T cars. So then they came to us and said, "Hey, can you go a little faster, because we want to make sure there's proper separation." And I think Rocky's pole time, Mike Rockenfeller, was a 3:47. So we really proud of the performance. And anyone who's seen the videos of us passing, most of all the GT cars and maybe even an LMP2 car or two was really fun.
And one of the stories I remember you telling in a conversation, I think during it, was the pit crew competition. I thought
Yeah.
that was that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so awesome. So here we are trying to get weight out of the car. And we worked with Delara, the chassis partner who's done so much for NASCAR in that car. We drew in air jacks because, of course, at Le Mans, it's the rules. You use air jacks. And our first presentation to the ACO, Terry Bouvet, who's a good friend, their technical director, said, "John, you know what?" He said, he's like, "No, he said, I think we probably should do a regular NASCAR pit stop." And are you serious? And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Can you pull up some videos of NASCAR pit stops and see where the crew members are within in the box? You know, if they're outside the pit box, that's a problem." But I showed him 2 or 3 pit stops by the Hendrick guys, and sure enough, everybody stays in the box. Like nobody's flying out in pit lane. So we found a way, and then on Tuesday of race week, they do exactly that. They go pit box to pit box, up and down pit lane, and as you know, the crew members in NASCAR pit stops are absolute tremendous athletes. So the first thing was, you know, those guys are in pit lane doing sprints and lifting and these medicine balls, and the rest of the crew members are like, "Who the heck are these guys?" It's like they saw a Bigfoot or something, you know. And you know, then it came our turn, and sure enough, the guys did a 10.3 second stop, 4 tires, and the place went crazy. And I was so proud of those guys. And several of them had never even been out of the United States before, and here they are at Le Mans, having the chance to show their talents.
And did the and everything I heard, the 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 European racers, the locals, hearing that sound of that car and seeing it, pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, I thought they would like it, but they loved it. And you know, there were several times where you're at these pre-race events, or you know, we had to pull the car in the garage to do brakes during the race. We had to fix a transmission issue like about an hour to go in the race, and you pull back out on the pit lane, and the people are chanting, you know, USA, USA, and it's like, wow, you know, you felt like you were part of the Olympic team.
There you go. What did you uh, wearing your hat as the president of IMSA, did you learn anything that you brought home from that you have integrated into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think just in general, it's a little bit away from the technical side. The idea that you can do unique things in this sport still. There's a lot of spec racing going on, and it's tremendous. It's been a great tool for drivers, teams, mechanics, like I said earlier. But there's still a place in our sport to do unique things, things that maybe people aren't expecting, things that push the envelope, things that you know are just unique to our fans. And I think what I saw there warmed my heart, because I think the audience that we have in our sport is still eager to see different things. And I challenge all my colleagues, I challenge everybody here tonight to continue to think that way. Cost is an issue. We need to make sure we keep costs in check. But there's still an opportunity to do some unique things and tell unique stories, because our sport is so great, and people need to see all the things we're doing from grassroots all the way to the top.
And made of great people, because what you did there, uh, without the leadership from NASCAR, and without your leadership and others, all the way through Hendricks, and then of course the FIA and the entire world side, to be able to bring that all together and allow you to do certain things like that. Motorsports people are pretty good that way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think NASCAR, the opportunity we had to tell the NASCAR story like we did there, man, it was we captured the hearts of everybody there, maybe even more so than some of the competition. But I just think our sport continues to be a place to do some fun and unique things, and we need to think that way as we all go to work on it.
And it goes both ways, because you took the car over there, and people seen maybe something they hadn't seen before. They certainly had heard about it, but then it turns it around as well. You had a lot of eyes from here watching that had maybe not watched that race,
Yeah,
or
and
that type of racing before.
it's funny you bring that up, because that's what I said to Jim early on. I said, you know, we have a very loyal fan base here in North America, they may turn their eyes on not only what we're doing at Le Mans, but the fact that that IMSA exists here, and vice versa. There's a tremendously loyal fan base over there. Obviously, 300,000 fans around the circuit. And they saw what NASCAR was about. And I have a funny anecdote, and I know we're running up on time here, but
Just about perfect timing.
all my years of going to Le Mans, I always go to visit the cathedral in downtown Le Mans the last day I'm there. Just sort of a, saying goodbye to Le Mans and that type of thing. Well, those who haven't been, please do go. It's a beautiful cathedral inside, huge ceilings, so high you can't even imagine. And I'm in there and I'm wearing a quarter zip like this with Garage 56, and this gentleman comes up to me with his son, and he, it's real quiet in there, and he says, were you part of that program? And I said, yes, sir, I was. And he said, will you take a video of me? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird, but I
Okay.
will. And so he gave me his phone, and I took this video, and he said, I came here to Le Mans with my son. He's got his little boy, he's got his 24-hour hat on. He said, I was not a NASCAR fan when I came here. I live in Miami, but I'll tell you what I saw there, when I go home, I am going to buy tickets to go see NASCAR at Homestead, Miami. And, you earned a new fan. And I was, here I am, about bawling my eyes out. Like, no, I can't take the
Yeah.
video. But,
Yeah.
what a special, not only a gentleman like that who's brought his son all the way to France, but now you got this young fan. He was probably 8, 9, 10-year-old boy. That's what we got to do as a sport.
You did your job, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it was just a small piece of it, but it that carries over much bigger than I'm sure that it than just that one person. So perfect. The future. Any words real quickly on where you see things going in the next couple of years with IMSA? Are you on the path that you want to be on?
Yeah, I think first of all, just so blessed to be in the moment we are with 18 manufacturers. That's incredible. We have long-term partnerships that we announced at Petit Le Mans with Michelin, with VP Racing Fuels, and with WeatherTech. So we have that stability through 2030, which is incredible. We're solid with NBC through the end of this season, and we're in talks with them right now about the future there. I think, sustainability has been a big part of what we do authentically, with the hybrid system, with Michelin bringing tires that allow our teams to use, a third less tires than we used a year ago, which is tremendous. And then, of course, we brought a 80% renewable fuel, and the manufacturers are pushing us hard to get to 100%. So that's going to be big storylines. On the EV front, I think we're looking at options. We want to remain relevant to the auto industry. We also want to make sure that we can't forget we're in the entertainment business. So whatever we do, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the senses of our sport, we've got to keep those front and center. But in each of our offices, when I got here, I made a plaque for all my colleagues, and it says, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to be cost effective. So we got to make sure budgets stay in check. 2, we're going to be entertainment driven, and we're going to put on great shows. And 3, we're going to be a marketing tool for the automotive and technology industry. And trying to do that every day. And we got a great staff. And I'm just real proud to have the opportunity that I have.
Perfect. Great way to end that part of the talk, John. I appreciate it. You're the right person for the job, as I've told you a couple times before. Very happy and with those 3 bellwether pieces of what you need to do, plus what the manufacturers need out of it. Obviously, that's part of what needs to be done in order to have the success. So.
Thank you.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick, and we'll do a couple closing things, and then the and we'll jump out of here. It's been a great time. The This one, just like all the rest of the webinars we do, I'm gonna work on this and get this placed up on our YouTube site just as soon as we can. We've got 200. This will be the 233rd video that we're putting up there. We've been knocking them out and putting them up here. Just tons of information for for our customers and other racers that use data. So really looking forward to that. The aim is it's early in the year, but I chat with our technical our techs that are out there supporting races every weekend, and they're already been out there. And uh, heck, John, we even had technical support guys at the 24 hours. Our smarty cams are in some of those GTP cars, so the and IndyCar and other places. So we're out there and we're doing what we do, and the customer support is just a big part of what we do, and so we'll continue to do that. If you're out there and you're looking for something, there's an 800 number there, or look for one of our sprinter vans, or the guys walking around with the black backpacks. So we'll be out there to help everybody get through what they need to get through. I mentioned earlier, real briefly, but our next webinar is at the last Tuesday of the month, February 27th, 10 p.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about Flagtronics and just another great technological advance that makes things safer for folks and get the drivers to understand exactly what's going on and how that integrates with the AIM dash loggers. So we're gonna talk about that. Cameron's going to join me, a first time co-host with me from AIM, and we're gonna have a good time and talk about that and talk about configurations and how that all works. So looking forward to that. So uh, great chatting with you again, John. I do appreciate it. The
Roger.
everything that we do, it's been a good time.
Pleasure is mine. And it's great to see you. It was great to see Mr. Kettler on,
Yeah,
Josh,
exactly.
Sean Hedrick. We worked together at Mazda as well. There were two quick Q&As. I don't want to take too much time.
If you read them and thought you can do them, go ahead.
Yeah. So there was two things I love. First, there was a question about the scanner we use in tech in scrutineering now. And what a tremendous tool. And I was a tool myself when I first went and watched the team use it, because I was standing between the screen and the scanner. And one of my tech inspectors said, I'm really glad you're here, John, but would you please step out of the way of the scanner?
That's funny.
So my big booty was showing. But what a tremendous tool. So we use the homologation process up at Windshear. And just imagine the look on the faces of the OEMs when they walked in and they brought these new race cars, and we had a scanner there, and we scanned the cars front to back, top to bottom, and back to the whole idea of
underneath too, no doubt.
Yeah, and so we have a full scan of the car such that when we get to the track and the team has the scanner and on the screen, it's building a complete picture that we can overlay with the homologated part. What a tremendous tool to maintain parity, integrity of the homologated car. So I love that tool. It's a highlight of all the tours for, young students and even the most educated folks that have been around the sport for a long time. The second piece was about BOP and the differences that we see when it comes to aero and things like that. We have the cars to wind shear as part of the aero study. We did it with GTP. We'll do it with GT next year. We have the torque sensors. We've got all the other sensors. When it comes to aero, the cars are in an aero box. Now they may be in a different place in that box, but they're all within an aero box. And based on where they're at in that box, they have a range of adjustments on rear wing and different elements. So that was one of the questions out there that I appreciate people digging a little deeper. So
I had read the questions, but I knew that I didn't want to overwhelm and run you too long. But if you want to chat about it, more power to us. And one last thing, I can't let it go by. You've mentioned a couple of folks, but Mel Kemper is here, and Mel is
my buddy Mel.
and I know you're friends with Mel, so I wanted to make that note even more that Mel is a local to me, more or less, and we've been friends for a long time, and Mazda racer forever in Formula Mazda, right?
A lot of familiar faces. Peter Krause is out there.
Peter Krause.
It just references, what a family this sport is. And I know, Roger, you and your family have done it as a family. So many others on here have. I did it as a family in my case, and we can't ever forget that. My dad told me that if something ever happened to him in life, it would be people from racing that were the first ones on the doorstep. And that happened, just over 30 years ago. And I'll never forget that, and I'm still in touch with those folks. And we gotta support one another. Fierce competition on track, but best of friends off track. So
Always. That's the way it's got to be. Every once in a while you butt heads, but you know what? At the end of the day, you're there to help with however you can. So
that's
I
exactly
appreciate
right.
it again, John. It's been great. Maybe we'll bring you back in a couple of years and see how things are going. And I might you said it, so I may take you away, but I may show up someday and want that tour of that
Send me
trailer. I'd love
send
to
me a
see it.
note. Yeah, send me a note and we'll get you set up. But everybody, thanks for joining. It was really nice to have the opportunity, and God bless. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, John, again. Look forward to seeing everybody next time. Talk to you guys soon. Bye
Good
bye.
night.